And we are live! My name is Outlaw. I am your host of RNN Live. Sorry for the little late start there. We were waiting a little bit to set up some stuff and get one of our other guests to join. So, why don't we have them introduce themselves, starting from the bottom?
Hello, my name is Neko Boy. I'm a music producer and content creator on YouTube.
And you machine another fact.
Isn't that your joke, though?
No. It's not a joke when it's true.
That's...
Anyways, onwards with Putza.
Hi, I'm 18 Putza. I do a little bit of art here and there, and I'm currently the only straight person here.
That is true.
Which means he's the one that will be forced upon.
That's...
No.
Oh, please don't make me pregnant.
Oh boy. Anyways, how should I introduce myself? Should I go down the usual Nazi route or just claim that I'm a
Well, you've
paranoid
already
schizophrenic in
introduced
a
yourself
bunker?
as a fucking rapist, so...
Oh, shut up. I ain't Jewish.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, who was Harvey Weinstein and who was Jeffrey Epstein?
You're forgetting that we have our local Jew here.
He's only half Jewish. He doesn't count.
Also, there's the drop of Jew in you.
Still don't believe that, but okay.
Anyways, introduce yourself, Val.
Like I said, I'm either the Nazi or a paranoid schizophrenic in a basement. It's the audience choice at this point.
Okay. Anyways, before we get started, if you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. And of course, follow me on all my social media. I've got a Parler, Twitter. I even started a new social media called MeWe. It's supposed to be a legitimate free speech social media, unlike Parler or any of the other social media. So if you're interested in following me on MeWe, you can. And of course, follow also my my Greater California site, because I'm trying to build up that movement. Hopefully eventually we'll get somewhere, but who knows, we'll see. Anyways, so if you can follow the Greater California social media as well, and follow me on Medium, because I post articles there periodically, and you can give up to 50 claps for each article. Now, why don't we get on with the video?
But please remember, do not read more than 3 articles of his a day. Otherwise you may die.
Fuck you. Anyways, for the first video we have here today is from Josie, however you pronounce his name. I'm assuming that's...
Jose.
Jose.
He's Brazilian.
Oh, I was going more for French, because, I don't know, I hate the French.
Anyways, let's get started with the video. Let me turn up the volume. Anyways, the video is about how he believes Gillette did not lose $8 billion because of their woke ad. Let's see what he argues.
My sponsor for this video is not Gillette, and their razors suck.
The world is weird and makes me mad, but at least I get to talk.
Hello, Garkai.
Jose.
Caffeinated chaos.
In January of 2019, Gillette released an ad titled, "We Believe the Best Men Can Be," Gillette short film.
Wait a second, the
about
commercial
danger
was
of
last year?
toxic masculinity.
The commercial was last year.
Yeah, it does feel like it was a lot longer than that.
Jeez, it really does.
Wait, what? Roy, Z, your warning sounds a bit like the old chain mails that said, if you don't pass this to 5 out of 10 of your friends, you will die tomorrow, or something like that. Also, hi, guys. Yeah, but my warnings hold a little bit legitimacy, because I do have to avoid the police in Germany.
Alright, can we get started again?
No.
And to sell razors, of course. In some corners of the internet, this was taken as a direct assault on men and masculinity, and the outrage helped fuel this ad to reach millions of viewers. The story of using socially progressive messaging in advertising has already been told in a great video by H Bomber Guy, and you can go watch that if you want a bit more detail on how these companies use these methods to sell their products. This video isn't about that, though.
Do you know who H Bomber Guy is exactly?
Yeah, I know.
Who is he?
He's another leftist.
Hmm.
We could already speculate that. You gotta be a little bit more specific.
I'll have to go see if he has any content for me.
I mean, I haven't watched a video of his in years, so I couldn't be specific.
Alright, let's get on.
It's about what happened with the Gillette outrage a few months later. In July of 2019, Procter & Gamble, Gillette's parent company, announced in its fourth quarter earnings report that it was writing down the value of its Gillette assets by $8 billion. The reaction from the outrage mob was predictable. Lots of crowing and patting themselves on the back, and people were hurriedly adding yet another entry to the spurious list of things that went woke and got broke. Which is still ridiculous because this write-down has nothing to do with the ad in question. One of the common misconceptions about this $8 billion loss is that it reflects a dramatic drop in sales of Gillette products. A quick look at the sales figures tells us this is impossible. Gillette is part of Procter & Gamble's grooming division, a division that, in all of its 2019 fiscal year, had sales of $6.2 billion, roughly a 5% drop from last year's.
What? What did you say, Putzer?
I was talking to somebody else. I meant to have it mute.
Ah,
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Give me a second. I'll be right back.
Oh, you mentioned a she.
well, yeah, it's probably his girlfriend.
Asian
So.
girlfriend, yeah.
Could
We
be
must
his
convert
mother.
her.
Anyways, let's continue.
$6.6 billion. So obviously that's not a drop of $8 billion. And even though the ad came out in January, Procter & Gamble's fiscal year actually ends in June, so it would only have about 5 months of sales to lose $8 billion. This write-down wasn't about millions of people leaving the Gillette brand en masse. Unlike certain critics, let's actually read the whole article to get a better understanding of what happened here. It quite clearly calls this $8 billion a write-down. This is when a company looks at the assets it has and lowers their value based on demand in the market. Here's a small example to explain that. Let's say we have a piece of clothing, such as jorts, and you're a company that has a warehouse full of jorts in the midst of a jorts craze sweeping the world. You would record that stash of jorts as an asset in your books, and you'd value it based on the high price people are currently paying for jorts. As time goes by, humanity comes to its senses and realizes that jorts are, in fact, ugly clothing no sane person would wear. As demand goes down, the average price for jorts goes down with it, and that warehouse full of jorts you have is now worth substantially less. While the physical asset of jorts remains completely unchanged throughout this time period, their value in the marketplace has gone down, and a responsible company would need to update this value in its books by writing it down. And we're seeing something similar happen here with razors. Although razor technology hasn't changed dramatically, it's men's fashion that has been changing over the last decade, and beards are very fashionable these days. Less guys shaving means less guys are buying razors. There's also the fact that the population, at least in the United States, and older men generally don't shave themselves as frequently as younger men. Add into the fact that Gillette, which once had very little in the way of competition, is now facing some serious resistance from companies like Harry's and Dollar Shave Club. Suddenly, you've got a brand that's having a much tougher time selling its products, and Gillette's sales over the past decade reflect that, showing a steady decline in year-over-year sales. Procter & Gamble also reported that its global sales are less profitable due to currency fluctuations around the world. That's a whole other topic in finance that I'm even less qualified to speak about. The point is that Gillette's trouble as a brand.
Decent research into the economics of this.
Yeah. But I do have to disagree with him because you got to remember a lot of people just simply announced that they're going to stop buying Gillette, and I've known people who have done that, and I've done that myself. So this would still be technically counted as a loss because I'm no longer a customer of Gillette.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, but you'd also have to figure out how many people who had seen the ad actually quit.
And I'm
and
sure it
everything.
has an effect. I mean, so far from what I'm seeing, it's probably going to be hard to calculate depending how open they are about their finances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, there's two things that I normally see. This is very similar to other things that kind of do the wokeness. They want a temporary boost in revenue, and this normally does trigger some kind of temporarily boost in revenue when they do this publicity stunt. And C, it does have, well, A, a lot of publicity, Like, remember that whole thing that they did with, I think it was Marvel Comics. They literally had these two guys. One was Safe Space, the other one was Snowflake.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that did do one thing for him, and actually got people to talk about comics. Like literally nobody else was talking about anything else until they went and pulled this stunt, which it
Yeah,
was
but,
a lot of great publicity.
Yeah, but you gotta understand, it's also a double-edged sword. Because typically, the whole concept of good publicity... What was it? No publicity is bad publicity? Is that what the phrase is? Anyways, doesn't matter. You get the point of what I'm trying to say. The issue is that phrase only really works when you have something to actually offer. Like, you make one bad product, but then look, we got these other good comics from Marvel. But that's not what you find with Marvel. I mean, literally, every one of their Vogue lines never reach the minimum of sales to continue. They always die at like the second or third issue, with each issue having a revenue loss because they don't because they don't reach the minimum sales. Such as, like, I forgot which superhero it was, but who is the one that the cover had the big controversy because she was on a beach and she was wearing a shirt where she says "ask." Makes sense. That comic book version of Captain Marvel, typically it's considered you need a minimum of 30,000 physical sales to actually sell, to break even.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue was that comic line, despite getting a third line, only reached 10,000. And the third line ended because another 10,000. So that means you could break even for the first issue of the comic by the third comic, which isn't good optics. And it's also because ever since Disney got a hold of Marvel, the people that they hire to make comic books aren't really good people. Such as, like, a lot of people that I've seen on YouTube do like Marvel's comics of Star Wars.
Yeah, and the thing with Disney, how the hell do you screw up Star Wars? You just had to do slightly better than the prequels. But that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, you also got to remember, George Lucas did one thing right about the prequels, which is world building.
Yeah.
Without the prequels, you wouldn't have Clone Wars and so on. But once again, like you said, that's a different story. No, but with the Marvel's Star Wars comics, which are less political than the Marvel comics, than the superhero
the comics were absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, but the issue with them is that the only people who really go for these comics have been actively protesting at getting them or paying for them for years now. And that's because the writers and the artists behind the comics are very shit people. They actively steal designs from smaller YouTubers, or, they steal designs from fans, and then they don't typically claim them as their own, but when they're caught, they just basically give the online response of "fuck you."
That reminds me of that collage I saw of, like, an artist doing a bunch of superheroes from, like, poses from the movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you line them up, like, it is exact. She didn't, like, make any alterations.
Oh, it's for a comic. I thought you were doing.
No, for a comic.
And
the funny thing is, I saw something about this on a Star Wars channel about how they were stealing fan ship designs.
Yeah.
And we're crediting them.
And, like, using a reference is fine, but, like, if you're able to line up the picture with each other.
Honestly, I have no problem with the whole lineup thing. It's just when they start lying about it, because I struggle a lot when it comes to poses, so I will basically do trace overs, but I will admit that I did trace over.
But if you're a professional artist, that's really bad, especially if it can put your... Well, thankfully they own what they were tracing, but if they were tracing, like, other people's work... that's when it gets bad. If you're trying to trace over a movie or anything, really, just as a quick reference, that's not Marvel.
Technically, it is, because Marvel also used to do that in the past for occasions. When it's a not important scene, I can get it, but if it's like the cover, that starts to get bad. But no. And the funny thing is, when it comes to the whole thing of them stealing designs, their Dark Horse also has a long line of Star Wars comics that they're still doing now under Disney, and a couple others. They always take designs that fans have created, but they do credit the fans both at the start of the comics and at the end of the comics to tell them which ships come from who, and typically link some form of social media or where you can get them or so on.
Yeah.
And that's the right way of doing it, because of course, I mean, Tracy, making vehicles for anything, especially to make them look good, is a pain in the ass unless you're willing to trace over an image. So a 3D model is a great advantage. Anyways.
I think we're getting off topic, though.
Yeah, we
Oh,
are
yeah.
off topic, but the basic point that we wanted to go with this is that he's claiming that this write-down has nothing to do with the advertisement, even though the CEO of Gillette said it had to do with the advertisement. Okay, who the fuck has a horn?
Sounds
What's
like
that?
the phone vibrating.
I do.
Okay, so that's where the fuck the horn was coming from, because I kept hearing a truck horn.
Oh yeah, I heard a truck horn too.
Anyways, but the basic point with the Marvel Comics reference is that you can write down a thing, but at the same time you gotta understand that there is a connection, because one of the main sales for razors is the razor blade itself, not the actual razor. I mean, how many times have y'all replaced a razor?
I just normally buy new ones, so probably every month.
No, I'm talking about the razor handle, the razor itself, not the razor blades.
Every couple weeks.
Right? Okay. Anyways.
Well, I guess it would, as Nico had said earlier, I guess it would be hard to figure out how much was actually contributed to the ad, because that would be hard to measure compared to the other losses they would already be getting. But let's see if there was any abnormal drop. When was the ad released exactly?
You mentioned it at the start of the video, but I feel like we should continue because you already dragged it too far off topic.
Fine.
And had been well known for some time. Here's an article from back in 2017 demonstrating that Gillette as a brand was having a tough time. Let's keep one thing straight though. Gillette still has a massive market share. There are a lot of different estimates of this, but I've seen numbers from everywhere between 50 to 60%. But that's a far cry from the 70% it once claimed. It means that this incredibly profitable business is now only fairly profitable. It stands to reason that a brand that doesn't make as much money as it used to isn't going to be worth as much in the marketplace. Procter & Gamble purchased Gillette in 2005 for the enormous sum of $57 billion. And while Gillette showed strong growth in the years that followed, in the early 2010s, it demonstrated a sizable decline, meaning if Procter & Gamble were to try and sell Gillette on the market today, it's quite likely it wouldn't fetch quite as high a price. A write-down is an accounting technique used to reflect this new reality. It also lets the parent company, in this case Procter & Gamble, lower its tax burden. If it's reporting to its government that its assets are worth $8 billion less than previously reported, that's $8 billion they won't have to pay taxes on at the end of the year. The annual earnings report this was announced and also announced very strong sales and overall growth for the Procter & Gamble company. So when this news went public, the market, being aware of how all this works, wasn't dissuaded by the write-down and instead focused on the strong sales growth, decided to buy up shares of Procter & Gamble and sent the stock to a record high. This obviously flies in the face of the idea that a commercial about toxic masculinity ruined Gillette and cost them $8 billion. Not that right-wing media outlets let it stop them from running countless stories about just that. My absolute favorite comes from the Washington Examiner, which originally ran an article with a headline reading, Gillette CEO, $8 billion losses, price worth paying over #MeToo campaign, which would later be updated with this correction. Correction. The Washington Examiner has updated the story to remove the suggestion that Gillette lost $8 billion due to its Me Too-inspired advertising campaign. We regret that this article did not adhere to the Washington Examiner's normal standards and procedures, and the headline had to be changed to Gillette CEO, losing customers over #MeToo campaign is price worth paying. How many customers were lost? Did it have a meaningful impact? This article can't really tell us, and
I will just say what I can see in stores. I can just say that I am certainly not the only person who used to own a Gillette razor over here in this region of Germany, but I can easily say that ever since the ad played, the Gillette areas have been surprisingly full.
What about other razors?
Other razors basically disappeared.
I use an electric, so I don't have that problem.
Anyways, what about you, Demon? Have you seen any notice within stores between Gillette razors and other razors?
Hold on a sec. I was going to see what kind of razors I had. I forgot the name.
Okay.
Yeah, I stopped buying Gillette and I started buying Harry's razors, which actually are better. And yeah, the Gillette ones are, the shelves are full of them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not like they've taken up more space. They've taken up the exact same space, just no one is buying them, and they're buying the competition that's literally around the Gillette razors. I'm currently using this Korean brand that is about 1/3 the price, but I've cut myself less with it than with the Gillette razor.
Yeah, I was going to say the Harry's razors, they're not the 5-bladed crazy Gillette stuff, but they actually shave better, and I like them way better, and they're cheaper.
Sounds like Gillette was trying to distract from their quality.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
I mean, another thing which I'm pretty sure he's not going to bring up is the whole other controversy with Gillette being... have you ever checked out the prices for Gillette's female razors? Despite being smaller and less bladed than the male razors, they are surprisingly more expensive.
There's a reason for it.
But
Well, yes,
Gillette
it
is just a
could be.
massive corporation that lies about everything.
Well,
Well,
there's
besides-
Make up your two minds. Who is speaking?
Go ahead, Outlaw.
I was just gonna say there's probably either the pad for like I don't know what that soapy stuff on the razors is, but that soapy part might be different, or that the design in some way might be different that may contribute to the cost.
Nope. There was a study which basically said that the female Gillette razors cost less to make than the male ones, but they charge more for the male one. But they charge more than the male ones.
You know, I'm noticing this pattern of like all these quote woke companies are actually the least woke.
Oh, who could have
Dude,
foretold?
you
Yeah,
just
like
noticed?
Nike.
You mean the wonderfully progressive company of Disney who is willing to work with a Chinese concentration camp, but removed the gay kiss scene from the from the Rise of Skywalker for Middle Eastern and Asian countries because they wouldn't allow the film to be played there?
Or Apple, who's trying to stop a bill preventing slave labor in China.
Apple, Nike, and Coca-Cola are the three big companies that I know.
Good thing I drink Pepsi.
Yeah, Pepsi's better anyways.
Heresy.
I still drink Coke, but I'm pretty sure in German restaurants they just give Pepsi because Pepsi is cheaper and they don't expect people to know. I mean, also half of the time when you order a Coke, you get a glass that says Pepsi on it. So either way, I'm probably drinking Pepsi. But even then, if I'm ever having soda, I think it's at most 5 times a year. So
I hardly drink soda, but when I do, I drink Dr. Pepper. Oh God, we've turned into an ad stream. Damn it! get on with it.
I better get paid for this.
Why are you goddamn degenerate?
Anyways, I think we've watched enough of the video unless you wanted to continue.
No,
I
not
mean,
really.
I don't know what else he'd have to talk about at this point.
Well,
Yeah.
I
But
do
I
want
will-
to say this.
Yes.
If you get, let's say, half the population in most countries somewhere in the right-wing spectrum, and even if 10% take that, let's say that Gillette boycott thing serious, you're still losing a lot of money. And likely those customers will never want to go buy Gillette again. So
Yeah,
I'm still not buying. This is really helping.
Damn it, Roy! I drink water. TM. I drink a lot of water too.
Well, it should
I just
say
noticed.
water owned by Nestle.
Oh, so are you
Oh,
drinking
God.
water like AOC told you to?
Hey, you know what though? If you drink Dasani, isn't that owned by Coke?
Yep.
Isn't Dasani like the most hated water brand in the US?
It's because they put
I don't
salt in
know.
it. You're not supposed to drink salt water.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I don't like the taste. So it's not
That
just me.
explains the joke now, because YouTuber Destry Smith. I recommend you watch his videos on What the Fuck News. I may not agree with the guy's politics, considered he willingly moved to Portland, Oregon.
Really?
Does
But
look like
why?
he is. I like to consider him a decent left winger because he is left wing. He believes that there is a form of systemic racism. He believes that police brutality is highly rampant. He still believes that the protests were peaceful.
So
But
it's more just ignorance.
Yeah, basically. But half of the jokes he does would get him kicked out of any left wing club if he tries to join it.
Mm.
I mean, like I said, just watch his videos on What the Fuck News. It is hilarious. Like I said, just everyone who's watching us, just check out Destry Smith. He's a fucking fun YouTuber. But anyways, he made a whole joke on Dasani water, the water that makes you more thirsty after you drink it. And finally, I get that joke. Because we don't have Dasani in Germany, because I think it was made illegal some time ago.
Anyways, let's go on with the video.
No.
All right. I think we all know it's not a stretch to assume that PragerU is pretty transphobic. They've had speakers on there many, many times to talk about how trans women are actually men pretending to be women or who are delusional. And
I'm
crazy
sorry,
and
but
they're
I
rapists
still
and yada,
refuse
yada,
to believe
yada.
that Chris Chan is a woman.
I don't think that's what they're trying to say. But anyways, as far as PragerU being transphobic, I really haven't seen any evidence of them to say that. And even if they are or were, that's kind of normal in the sense of where we are at socially.
Well, you gotta remember, I'm going to guess that he's gonna say that that they're being transphobic because they don't acknowledge the other 7 billion genders.
That too.
Which is basically, yeah, if you call yourself, what are some of them? Pansexual, homosexual?
No, those are sexualities. You're talking about the non-binary, gender-fluid, third gender, two-spirit people.
I thought those were also considered genders, what I just said.
No, pansexual is supposed to be a sexual orientation. It's basically just bisexual.
But
Then why the fuck is it put on the gender spectrum? Because I've seen it on gender spectrum lists. So it's a gender.
So they can add more.
but
Anyway, so that's...
anyways, if I may talk about the video, like in crud, I'm trying to remember the YouTuber's name. Rosa Dawn. Yeah, she's a trans YouTuber from England who talked about this. Like, it has nothing to do with them being trans. It has to do with having high testosterone levels. It's the same reason like steroids are banned, because high testosterone gives you an advantage.
Well, that, and there's also
Are you-
the muscle density, and I think also the bone density.
Why you gotta
Yeah.
use hate facts, guys? Those are hate facts.
Who the fuck is smashing beads right now?
I don't hear any of that, but okay.
Maybe
No.
you're hearing clicking.
Yes, I'm hearing clicking from you, Nico. What are you doing?
What are you
I
doing?
haven't been clicking.
Do you want
Anyways,
me
let's
to-
get on with the
Not
video.
me. That's not me.
But it's coming on my speaker whenever you're
And
speaking.
leftist orthodoxy is pushing gender ideology. Just put all the buzzwords in there, okay? And so it's not surprising that they decide to make a video about...
Oh, and there was the non-binary flag that you can see right there. Let me rewind a little.
I think I can see it.
and so
No, wait, that's
it's not
the
surprising.
There it
transgender
is.
flag, and there's the non-binary.
Yeah.
Also, before you click play, just remember, what was it? Women's wrestling, was it? Where a transgender woman was first allowed to play, and she shattered the socket of her opposition. And
It
It
because...
was MMA.
Yep.
Okay. And wasn't the black woman, who was actually a woman, was forced to apologize on television to her opposition?
I don't know.
Not sure.
Roy gets it.
I remember that she, quote unquote, severely injured two of her two of her opponents. I mean, like shattered bones. I mean,
No,
could have killed him.
We're talking about fractures on bones, which already is bad enough for fighting. But then the black opponent, whose name I keep forgetting, I think it was her left eye, but her socket was fucking cracked. It was not just a fracture; it was cracked across.
Yeah, she
That
could have
is
lost her
severe.
eye.
Yeah, and she was basically told to apologize on public television because she made some comments about how transgender people, especially like this, shouldn't be able to play in women's sports.
Oh, stupid side note. Did you see the Vanderbilt college game where they had the first female kicker? She kicked a 30-yard kickoff and had to have a man hold the ball for her instead of kicking off a tee. And she shanked the ball. And they're like, oh my God. They gave her SEC Player of the Week. And then the team lost 41-0.
Ouch.
That's a bad optics. But anyways, let's
The coach
continue
got
on
fired.
with this.
What was her position?
Kicker.
They
I think it
could
was
have
kind of
picked something-
implied
Well,
by what she did.
I think they could have chose something better that would have been as disastrous.
Well, here's the thing: if you guys don't follow football, I used to, I don't anymore. But you know what? If someone returns the ball, you know what the kicker's job is? Tackle the person returning the ball. So what if somebody had gotten it and run it back, and she had to block a 250-pound running back who just obliterated her? You think he'd have to apologize?
Probably.
No.
But anyways, continue. That was
Tried
just
to
a
make a
little side note.
video about women's sports and trans women. Ironically, you never see these people talk about trans guys in men's sports because, as you'll find, a lot of the time, trans dudes end up getting whooped in a lot of men's sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, that's kind of reasonable in that sense. To
Yeah,
allow
but also-
trans men.
Yeah, what's
but
his
also,
point?
if I'm not mistaken, how many times can you remember where there's a trans man who's complaining about losing a game?
Don't think there is.
Exactly, because you play a game. You either win or you lose. You're either on par or you're not on par.
Yeah.
Did anyone else hear the news? The first woman frontline officer who completed the course, and this is a super tough course for women. Something like 30 other women failed before her. Yep, it turns out it was a guy. So the first woman wasn't even a woman. And it gets even funnier because it was found out because, her and another guy got a little bit of a private time, and he found out the hard way that she has a penis.
I won't suffer your transphobia, Z. You
Shut up,
filthy.
you live in Florida.
Anyways, let's get on with the video.
Shut up, you
Sometimes
already
they
live in
don't, but that
Florida.
tends
You
to be the
already suffer
general,
by the basic
the general trend.
existence.
And
of the
there's
humidity.
actually a lot of cases of trans men then dominating in women's sports whenever they're forced to compete against women. But I'm going to give you guys my solid, undefeatable take when it comes to trans people in sports, okay? My honest to God take is I don't
Before
think
he
that the
says anything-
integrity of fucking sports
Before he
is
says
more
anything.
important.
Yeah?
All right, so I'm going to get the feeling that he's going to try to use just a social construct kind of thing. And I'm going to apply, and if I'm going to see if the alt-right can use this argument to argue that their race is superior. And the reason why I say this is because I got in an argument with a guy, and he says effectively, if gender isn't measurable, then neither is race. Then somebody who's bigotry can argue that effectively that their race is superior off of, because, measurements of what happened before that prove that both races were equal no longer matter now due to his standards of reality. And thus every argument that he used to defend transgender people can now be used for bigots. If the context of reality doesn't matter for them, then it shouldn't matter for other people.
Anyways, let's get on with the video.
Than the enfranchisement of a group of people in society. of a particular demographic like trans people. I don't think that in this case, integrity in sports fucking matters. Like, I really don't give a shit about it.
No, it's an even worse
really
argument.
don't care. I've seen a lot of really good arguments that at a certain point, the inequality in terms of like a trans woman against a cis woman in sports, or a trans guy against a cis guy in sports, kind of levels out and balances out much more than you would imagine. But unfortunately, there's just not enough data in this field in order to take a strong position in favor of...
Pause the video. I'm gonna make a terrible joke over here. We can now claim that this guy advocates the brutalization of women.
Okay.
But it's true. I mean, the last wrestling match, the one that we were talking about before, broken bones, a shattered eye socket, and possibly loss of sight in one eye.
Well, regardless of that factor, there has been many studies to show there is physical differences between men and women.
You can
And
just
those
watch the
things
sports
don't-
and tell. Like,
Wait a second. You mean that what was her name? Emily's body from The Last of Us Part 2 was not realistic? The one where it looks like she ate and fused with Hulk Hogan? What the fuck was her name? I completely forgot.
But anyways, as far as there not being enough data, there's actually plenty of data to show that even when people have transitioned, it does not change the bone density. It does not change the amount of muscle that a person already is born with in their body of capability. It doesn't change any of those factors once you've gone through puberty and everything.
Well, even like the trans women that I know, like one of my really good friends, Shay, she's like over 6 feet tall. And I mean, she even says like, no, it's not fair for me to do a sport or fight with other women because I'm bigger, I'm stronger, and because, I mean, she's a dude.
well, and that goes to show the divide between activists and regular people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, another thing is men generally way more taller, have more muscle mass just by default. That's why generally military use men for infantry and most of the fighting.
And that's why there's huge discrepancies between records. Like for weightlifting, the difference is 400 pounds.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, women in the military would make great intelligence operatives, pilots, stuff like that. But as far as frontline infantry, I mean, I'm sure there's some girls that can, but
mean, during this German invasion of the Soviet Union, because if you didn't know, women's eyes are better at night than men's eyes. So there were whole sniper divisions that were made out of Soviet women.
Yeah, I've heard of
Because they
that.
were far superior of that. And also, sniper, you got to remain low and barely move, so you don't really need to run around with a rifle, which they did say was a problem because the standard issue rifle was quite heavy for them.
okay,
And,
you know what else?
But
Stalin didn't give a damn. He would have thrown children to die.
yeah,
Actually,
of course. He fucking ordered the starvation of Leningrad, which led to millions of people dying and a lot of people turning to cannibalism to try to survive in the city when the Germans seized.
Okay, what does this have to do with trans people?
Anyway, no, we're talking about just the difference of where women are more superior at for a situation. The other example was the Night Witches, where female Soviet pilots were given outdated B-2 bombers, basically late 20s, mid to late 20s bombers, biplanes, and they used them super effectively because they basically stalled out the engine before they made a bombing run so the Germans didn't hear them. So,
Because
that's some
Germans are
example.
stupid.
No, it's because it's night and it's Russia. Russia is never quiet.
I was kidding, see. No
Anyways.
offense, man.
Anyways, let's go on with the video.
Trans people in sports, it's for real. There's just not like enough data. I generally, when it comes to situations like this or any particular position, I like to base my opinion about it around the scientific consensus, and there just isn't a.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
you definitely base everything off of scientific consensus. What were your opinions about gun control again?
Like Joe
Anytime
Rogan
someone
has had.
says it's about the science, they don't know science.
Well, and Joe Rogan has had professionals on his show discussing why it's an issue. So he's just being selective.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but also, sorry, but Joe Rogan is also selective because you gotta remember, Joe Rogan hates video gamers.
All
Joe
Yeah,
Rogan's
but he is
also
also
not a
a boomer.
conservative.
that
What?
doesn't change like the wide
I
range
knew
of
I was gonna
people
get a
he allows.
response from y'all. Okay, so Putza, what did you say first, and then I ask our boomer
Well,
over here.
he's also a boomer and a sports addict.
Yeah, but when he says that video games are a waste of times and video gamers should do something more realistic, like starting up a dojo, it's a
Yeah.
little bit different. But
I know, but well, okay. So how many doctorates do you have?
me,
Yeah.
I can't say them if I want to live. But anyways, Demon, what
But
was your
my
point?
the point I was trying to make is that every man is ignorant, regardless if we like to be or not.
Okay, but Demon said something, and I want to know what he said.
I was going to say, okay, well, in opposition to Joe Rogan, buying a $60 video game is way different than investing $60,000 to $600,000 in a dojo. Not all of us can do that, Joe.
Also, dojos have a surprisingly low profit margin.
Yes,
But
they
now
do.
we're off topic again.
Watch Cobra Kai.
Anyways, I'm getting back to the video.
Yes.
A scientific consensus around like trans people in sports yet. It's just not really a thing right now. So considering
Roy,
that,
shut up,
I'm
or I
not going
put
to
you
be
back into
focusing on the
Australian
arguments
fires.
of trans people in sports because the only people who get mad about this are transphobes. They use this one singular issue as a way of sort of painting
not just
a
regular
road
women.
or painting a line towards the rest of the transphobic arguments that someone would make, just kind of based off of this. Like, for example, Blair White. Do you guys remember how Blair White got in a shit ton of trouble recently for trying to say that Janae Marie Kroc, who was a power lifter, competed against cis women? Like,
Yes, I will say that Blair White did make that huge blunder with trying to insinuate this one trans female body lifter competed in women's competitions, and she did not. But that still does not make her transphobic against other trans women or men. It's just that she's bad at research.
Well,
Well,
didn't
this
she like
fucker
redact that video or apologize?
Yes, later on she did apologize. However, she did take a while to apologize. She took, I think, a week or two to apologize.
It was only a week. It felt like it was several months with how many times you were complaining.
I wasn't complaining, but anyways, as far as
Please, you like Blair White. You actually met her.
yes, I met her once. I took a picture with her, but that's about it. I don't really know her as a person.
I'm
You met
jealous.
her?
You
never
Just
told
one
me that
picture.
story.
What?
I said you never told me that story. I didn't know you actually met her.
Well, yes, I met her in person. I've never really spoken with her.
Yeah, it was
It's
just
just-
like a meet and greet kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a meet and greet thing where she was at an event as a speaker.
But now she's moving to Texas.
Yes, I'm gonna miss her.
Yeehaw.
Hey,
Yeah,
you should get the hell out of that state you're in, Rational.
Hey, I'm working on making my new state.
Yeah,
Or do that.
dude,
That's-
get the hell out of that state.
Yeah,
It
someone
doesn't
help
matter
me
if you're
convince
dead
them
and
because I
starving.
do not want to go to California.
Val, you are coming here because this is my home state. I love my state despite its terrible government.
Oh, so question for you. This 3-week lockdown that you guys are starting, can you go to the grocery store or anything?
Yes, we can go to the grocery store. Sadly, that we
Well,
still
then
can't
what
go
the
to the
hell's the
gym.
point?
What?
I said, what's the point if you can still go out? of a
Don't
lot.
ask me. I already knew Gavin Newsom was an idiot. So, but anyways, as back to far as Blair White goes, I don't think she's transphobic. I think she's just really bad at research and a bit lazy at research when it comes to that. I don't think she is intentionally trying to be mean.
And that's why, like, when it comes to those kind of videos, I prefer Rosa Dawn because she does a lot more research.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah, I have a
goes,
question.
like, she goes pretty deep into detail, like,
Goes
you
pretty
know,
deep.
Demon, get your mind out of the
Anyways, what were you saying, Putza?
Anyway, so if the point of the whole lockdown thing is about health, don't you generally want to stay in shape? Like 90% of the things that are in that grocery store isn't going to be that productive to your health versus spending 10 or 20 minutes in the gym.
Oh, don't worry. In LA, you cannot walk in the streets anymore.
You can always riot. That's still legal.
I did see a meme which was police come up to this woman's door asking if they're having a Thanksgiving dinner, and she says, "No, we're rioting inside." And then the police just says, "Oh, continue on."
Peaceful protest. Mostly peaceful.
But as far as Pedro, do I own a gun? No, I do not, although I probably will own one in the future.
Your parents own a gun, and we need to get you to use a gun.
Well, my parents own several guns.
Yeah, of course, because your mother is ex-FBI.
Anyways, let's get on with the video.
After transitioning, after she multiple times, like...
Let's skip this part.
But the problem...
First and second in our
video to speak for them. Food anymore. This girl...
the help of my parents.
Sports part. We're going to be looking for the transphobic
Oh my God,
arguments
pick a
that
place.
PragerU makes, and we're going to debunk those. So let's just get right into it.
I've been training to be a championship sprinter since I was 8 years old. With the help of my parents, my coaches, and my teammates, I did it. By sophomore year of high school in 2018, I was one of the top 5 female high school sprinters in Connecticut.
Do you want to know what this is going to be? Okay? So for one...
Much better video.
This woman has sold her soul, okay?
Good one.
This girl fucking sold her soul to the devil by going on PragerU.
Wow, PragerU is the devil now.
Real quick. How many atrocities have PragerU committed? I want 5 of them goddamn now.
I mean, you could make the argument that she sold her soul to Israel, but the devil? I mean, that's a wee bit exaggerated.
Oh, by the way, is the devil male?
Of course it is. And God is a woman. Hence why...
No. Not just a woman. She's a black woman.
I'm
She's
firmly
a black
convinced
Jewish
that Lucifer is a woman.
No. I'm convinced that Lucifer is male because hell seems like a fun place. Because if you gotta understand, if you look at the original version of Satanists, it wasn't the stereotypical what we imagine now and what God people still think Satanism is.
Don't get me started on Satanism. You know I used to be one.
Okay, I did not know that.
Well, he is a demon, so...
He's also from Florida. As far as we understand, he can fart fire. And that's natural for the region.
It's okay, you know.
Hey, demon. Do you know who Lilith is?
Yes.
Oh. Do you think that she would actually hold standards to modern feminism today, or no?
No, she'd just kill and eat people like Hillary Clinton. Children.
All right.
Anyways, my basic point was that the original form of Satanism is what we may consider a more libertarian version of actually kind of modern libertarian beliefs, because one of the things was, no centralized church, etc. Basically anything that would cause Catholics or Christians of the time to go full on crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
it's
just like
like
burning pagans.
Yeah. Well, if anything, Satan's always kind of struck me as an anarchist.
Yeah, that's totally what it's about.
Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken from the original Bible, the basic point was that Satan didn't like how God was ruling things, so God banished him, and then 1/3 of angels followed the Satan because they didn't like what God was doing.
Funny thing is, I don't think that's in the actual King James version. I could be wrong about that.
You are.
I am.
Yeah.
Is it?
Anyways, let's get on with the video.
No, discussing the Bible is more fun than this.
Actually what happens, all right? I know this to be true. I've talked to Hunter Avalone. He told me he can't taste food anymore.
Talked to Hunter
he did a
Avalone?
PragerU video once. He featured in a PragerU video, and he regrets it. Whenever he did that, he
Hunter
can no
Avalone's
longer taste
statements
food.
are about as valid
He can't
as
find
Hillary
animals
claiming
cute
she's
anymore.
healthy.
And it also gives him problem. I'm just kidding, but no, you legitimately lose your soul if you ever appear in a PragerU video to speak for them. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys what this is gonna be right off the bat. This video is gonna be a sob story from this girl talking about how she worked so hard to become a sprinter, and then she participated in a championship or some sort of event against a trans woman, and the trans woman blew her the fuck out. And she's gonna be like really mad about trans people in sports and talk about how it's unfair. And then that's gonna be the video. That's what we're about to do.
I thought liberals weren't
With
supposed
the
to
help
pick
of my
on women.
parents, my coaches, and my teammates, I did it.
No, you missed the point. You're
By
not supposed to pick on women with our ideologies. If it doesn't fit their ideology, you can kick them as far as they go.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, pretty
Freshman year
much.
of high school in 2018, I was one of the top 5 female high school sprinters in Connecticut. But then, one day, I wasn't. At the state championships that year, 2 people passed me, passed all of us girls, literally. They finished first and second in our races, dominating the field. Were they more motivated? Did they train harder?
Yes.
I don't think so. But they did have an
How does
edge,
he know?
a big one we couldn't match. They were biological boys who said they were transgender girls.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so like I said,
Does he have an
it's
echo effect
possible
on his
to
microphone? I
to
just
have an
realized that.
actual non-transphobic discussion about like how fair it is to have trans people participating in a particular sport. But the problem is that's never what you hear. You never hear like a good faith
pause
discussion
this. I got
about
a good joke. I got a decent enough joke for this. For an exaggerated comparison of what he's... What's that?
No, go ahead.
Oh, so I guess you were supposed to have muted yourself at that point because you were speaking for some time. But anyways, for an exaggerated comparison that would work with this argument, it's like comparing Batman versus the Bane as a fair fight. What is...
Lack of faith disturbing, see?
But it's true. What's the Bane's famous quote? I'm the man who broke the bat. Because he literally broke Batman's back. But anyways.
Well, you see. Oh,
Okay,
wait, now
so
I'm turning into
if
Sean
you're a
Connery.
trans woman
Crap.
and you developed and you
rest
did
in
not
peace,
go on
Sean
hormone
Connery.
blockers when you were a kid. You transitioned in adulthood after you'd gone through a male puberty. You no doubt have or would have for a significant amount of time into your transition a lot of the benefits that would afford you when it comes to athleticism. It is completely possible to have that discussion, but that's not the discussion they're having here. There is a reason they phrased it that way. There's a reason they framed it biological boys.
The current
Wait,
biological
that's what you said,
scientific
right?
understanding of
Because that's
biology.
literally what they are, biological boys.
They are only women socially. That's about it.
You know, it just reminds me of this joke, the life of a transgender person, and it was depressed boy, then a girl, then suicide, and then the skeleton is found 300 years later, and the archaeologists determined that it's male because of the pelvis and other features.
It's depressing, but it is kind of true. Actually, not kinda. It is.
Well, if the transgenders wanted to live, they didn't have to have a loss rate of 45%.
Anyways, I think we'll skip this part of the video and we'll go on to the next video I think he comments on.
Okay, sure.
Well, anyway,
if he
just
does.
one thing I just don't understand. How is it transphobic just to say that maybe they shouldn't compete in the same sport as biological women? Like, for starters, I criticize Christianity and I don't hate Christians.
Yeah,
You know, I criticize religion all the time. I don't want anything bad to happen to these people. They think they should just have as much rights as I do.
It's just this weird moving of the goalposts. Like everyone's the same except when it's inconvenient. Then there's an advantage.
Okay, I think that's actually the only video he's responding to, but since it's probably going to be pretty much the same talking points, I figure we can go on to the next video.
Sure.
Alright, so the next video I was thinking of doing is how anti-SJW gamers fail to recognize that capitalism ruins video games. What do you think of that video?
Oh,
Yeah,
how
Well, for
God,
starters,
no.
there wouldn't be video games without capitalism, so what the fuck's he talking about?
I'm curious as to the argument.
Who the-
Oh, great.
so
It's the
who's
man who
video
I
by?
already don't like.
I don't even know who this is, so...
That's
Angry
Angry
Joe.
Joe. Yeah.
Somebody I want to punch in
I think it's just a response... Oh, no, that's right. This is from Cavernacle, but this is just a response to him and others, I think.
What was the last controversy Angry Joe was in? Didn't he try to dox someone? No.
Well, a woman tried accusing him of like.
Yeah, but that one was where he was innocent, and I supported his decisions. He did
Anyways.
the right thing for those. No, before that, he had some other controversy where he.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Let's get on with the video.
Oh,
Because
please,
you
we
just
haven't even
cannot
passed the
help
hour mark.
yourself. I can't believe this latest Iron Whale event that they just released for Apex Legends, a limited time. They want to actually charge us over $200, insulting your audience.
Something I've always found
that just me?
interesting about reactionary gamer
What
bro
was the $200 for?
YouTubers
Because now I was
is
curious.
I don't care. That doesn't matter.
That does matter.
how
We
a
need
lot
the
of them will
context.
criticize these corporations who make the video games. They will criticize their awful business practices, their predatory business practices,
Okay,
including
pause this. I gotta answer
microtransactions
Pedro
and loot boxes.
for his latest comment. Fun fact, actually a lot of games were made in the Soviet Union. There was a knockoff system based on the Super Nintendo system. And, well, that line is still around now. In fact, it's partially owned by Nintendo itself. So, yeah, the Soviet Union actually made quite a few video games. As
But
for
how many
North
were in mass
Vietnam,
production?
all of them. They actually sold quite well, and it was one of the few successful independent businesses in the late terms of the Soviet Union.
Anyways, let's go on with the video.
boxes. They'll criticize often as well the working conditions, although not as consistently. And then they'll turn around and either vote for Donald Trump or be a Trump supporter, like someone like the Quartering, or someone like the Act Man who says they are a capitalist. What they don't realize is that they're actually critiquing capitalism and the capitalist system. They just don't really realize it, and I think that's down to a lot of factors. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of the problems they have with these systems in video games, these corporations, it's not a one-off, it's not unique to the video game industry, it's a problem with capitalism overall.
Can I
Now,
pause
this is
this? Where to even start? Like, just because it's a bad business practice doesn't mean capitalism is bad. Like,
That's why you have
I think he's
regulation.
more mixing it up with corporatism. Because some of the best video games are made in the country where they come from, such as like indie games, West Europe, Asia, so on.
yeah,
They're
it's
made
like
in small
people
places.
have.
But
yeah.
then you take games like, what's a good example? The Last of Us Part 2, where there were multiple work violations that Naughty Dog did, with a turnout rate of 70%, where they just forced their employees to make a shitty game. And if they didn't do it up to par, they just fired them.
Yeah,
You
like
bring up that crappy game one more time, I swear to God, Z.
like we'll see where he goes, but like if he leaves out the fact of like indie developers, then he's just
He's full of
I
crap
can't-
and he's a moron.
Well, you also
Well,
have to think
Yeah.
about the
I
fact...
just don't. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that capitalism also made video games possible, so you can't really critique it in that sense. Plus, one business or some businesses doing unliked business practices, yeah, there's going to be sometimes some things that come in capitalism you're not going to like. However, socialism or communism is not going to make games better.
Yeah, that's
like,
the
you
ironic
don't-
thing, because because what I was trying to say with the USSR video game system, because I forgot its name, it was actually functioning on a capitalist system within the Soviet Union.
Yes.
They made a product, they sold the product, they sold video games, and they made an improved product with the money that they made from the first one. It was literally a capitalist system in the Soviet Union.
Yes, exactly. Because, as I was just saying, capitalism is what is started and made video games possible. And it's the system that you need to continue to make video games, because socialism and communism are not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, well, just another thing is, I don't like how he hyperbolically just nitpicks his facts about capitalism, calls them all failures, but if you use that same hyperbolic standards that he has, if he critiques capitalism, then fucking communism, socialism would be a million times worse. He just doesn't apply it to the other ideology.
And the other point I was going to make is that, like, you don't need regulation to have good business practices. Like, the Ford Motor Company, like, they paid their employees higher than most because they wanted them to be able to afford their products. And they also helped introduce the 2-day weekend. So,
okay.
yeah,
how about we also
capitalism's
take
great.
the example of what he has on his wall behind? So we got Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not too sure what the clock thing is, but then we also got Blade Runner. My basic point is, which one of these has not committed, let's say, a little bit of crimes against humanity?
Anyways, let's go on with the video.
Broad topic to
The
take
answer
up,
is
so I am going
Pirates
to
of the
use some
Caribbean.
clips from the quartering, and the Actman actually made a video about loot boxes like a couple of weeks ago, so that's helpful. But it's more of a response and talking about how these problems are obviously not in the vacuum of video games. They actually are part of, you know, wider problems within the economic system that most of us have to live in. Now, before we go any further, if you want to support my work, please like the video, maybe subscribe to the channel, and maybe check out my Patreon page in the description. We now have a Discord, so also check that out and come check.
Or lul's surprise. No, it's not. When you buy a Kinder Egg, no matter what, you get some crummy chocolate and a toy. Also, you don't need to buy Kinder Eggs in order to enjoy a video game or compete with other people. Are you kidding me? I guess they have to talk in a way that tries to convince these governments to not ban loot boxes. As we've seen desperation out of companies like 2K, where they're actually emailing customers asking them to talk to their governors or their state representatives to try and tell them, hey, we want these mechanics to stay in. No, we don't. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you, as somebody who used to buy sports games every year, I loathe them. I have never spent a dime on any of this garbo, but I would actually rather pay $10 to $15 more for a video game if they spent more of their time on improving the actual game and less on figuring out sneaky ways, algorithmically or otherwise, to get people to buy these loot boxes.
So we're starting to see that problem is that companies like EA, companies like Activision are starting to, you know, put these predatory practices in everything to make as much money as possible, and in their view it's, you know, scummy or unethical. But if you're an out-and-out capitalist, are you really going to begrudge corporations trying to make as much money as possible? So the Axeman is another capitalist, although he's not really brazen about it on Twitter or anything. So I just typed in Axeman capitalism to see what came up. So here's one tweet where he's, I guess, being against socialism. So he says, 9 p.m, live an extremely unfulfilled, unsatisfying life, the same as everyone else, because I'm no longer entitled to the fruits of my labour. And also he seems to think that capitalism means you're entitled to the fruits of your labour. So was that a typo? Capitalism means you're entitled to the fruits of your labour. So obviously in our capitalist system, this is the exact opposite. Anyone who has worked any job for someone else can attest to this, because what happens is that you give up most of your time, you work hard to make the boss as much money as possible, and you get paid a measly amount of those profits, and often your mental health suffers, your physical health suffers. You literally give your body.
Yeah, but
away.
you literally
This
see
dude has never
none of
worked-
those profits.
This dude has never worked a proper job in his life.
Actually, I was going to bring that up because I just went to his Twitter account to try to track him down, and go figure, he's also a big supporter of the NHS because he got injured whilst playing football last year. I'm more impressed by the basic fact that underneath the current situation with Britain for the last 3 years, that he has even time to play football.
Well, okay, so like this really isn't a good argument because he's just making a bunch of very broad general statements like, oh, it's unfulfilling, oh, you get paid little. Like,
if you want to hear some
maybe
really bad
Victor
arguments, just go to his Twitter account. You will see a lot of things about Karl Marx and how good he is.
As I was saying, like, I'm sure there are definitely jobs like that, but to say that about everyone's job on their behalf, that's...
Well, for starters, I left my 2 jobs. And B, no matter what the day, how shitty your job is, it's not a fucking gulag. So
like, you're getting compensated for your labor. Like, this isn't that hard, and I agree, like, he probably hasn't worked a real job.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. This guy lives in Britain, and Britain is very well known for its very, very sketchy working practices, especially with a long list of businesses which just have digital failures in their payment system, so you may not be paid for months of labor.
I was going to say, when I was the GM of the little bar and restaurant, the owners gave me profit sharing, they gave me benefits, I got paid well. I mean, yeah, it was a lot of hours, but I was running the place.
Yeah, you know,
it wasn't like a gulag. I enjoyed it.
To be fair, the only way that this guy's arguments fall a little bit apart is by a good joke from none other than Boris, from Life with Boris. When he did his birthday special, where he made a joke about the Soviet waffle maker he was going to use to make waffles with, which was that they were made by hardworking, underpaid Polish workers. Which then he laughs and says, don't worry, they weren't paid.
Roy, you make another joke like that, I will be the last of you.
Well, it's amazing they even got an iron to begin with, because
I vaguely recall hearing... What was that?
I was saying it's amazing he had an iron and all, because as the saying goes, they pretend to pay us and we pretend to work.
No, that's the issue. With Poland, you did work, unless you wanted to go to sleep and wake up in East Germany. Because that happened a lot. But anyways, what was that comment from Roy, which you brought up, Outlaw? And took away? I vaguely recall hearing about some socialist or communist nation that had 100% employment because they employed people to dig holes and cover them. Yeah, that sounds like actually parts of India where all they do is literally just dig holes.
Why are you always hating on India so much?
Because I fucking hated it, and I wasted 18 years of my life over there. But also because, quite seriously, the sector of in Goa where I was, you would always have someone digging up holes, and nothing was placed in them. They were hired by a government business just to work to dig holes. Occasionally, someone would fill them up. Occasionally, someone would fall in them and die. You know, it's India.
Is that the definition of a shovel-ready job?
Probably.
To making someone an insane amount of profit, and your labour is never valued properly in a capitalist system. Now, I don't know if the Atman has had a job.
Well, if you work at Naughty Dog,
but I think sometimes when you're a successful YouTuber who makes your money off YouTube, where the job is pretty cushy and you're making a lot of money, you probably forget this is the dynamic for most of the world, where they aren't making a lot of money from making videos on YouTube. They're just making minimum wage, doing hard jobs, doing physical jobs, or even, just standard jobs where they're not valued, and where the people at the top are just making as much money as possible. But let's go into how an ideology like the Atmans and the Quarterings of, I'm a capitalist and I want to have the fruits of my labour and, everything like that. Let's see how it translates into their opinion on loot boxes and microtransactions. So let's go to the Atmans video I was talking about.
Legends say that on a dark, stormy night, a young Australian man set foot within a forgotten cemetery in London. On a faded grave bore the name Karl Marx. The man fell to his knees and shouted towards the sky, "Is this good for the plot?" It was then that the ghost of Karl Marx arose from his casket and told the young Australian of a plan to destroy capitalism And so, Andrew Wilson returned to his laboratory, where he plotted and schemed for days, weeks, months, and
Welcome
years.
back,
Until one day,
Not much.
one fateful
Nothing.
evening, he crept into EA headquarters,
Can I
barged
say
into the
something real quick? I
shareholders'
wanna say
top
something
secret
real-
meeting, and lay the
You know what? One argument that really doesn't, that communism really doesn't answer for.
What?
They talk about the exploitation of workers. Well, what if you're self-employed?
Then you're taxed to that.
Hate facts.
This has more. This video has more holes than Swiss cheese.
That's not a bad one.
It's the demon rats got a hold of it.
Actually, you want to know what would be the funniest thing? The way that Cavernacle behaves and probably lives his average life, Karl Marx would have wanted him dead.
Oh, for sure.
Because
No, yeah.
if Antifa even bothered to truly look at who Karl Marx was as a person, he would have hated all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what did Hitler do with the brown shirts? He killed them all. What did Stalin do with the Red Guard? He killed them all.
Hitler didn't kill all of the brown shirts. He just killed those that didn't agree with him.
Which
The
would
younger
be-
soldiers were then put into the SS. Anyways,
Well, one thing I wanted to say is this guy should be discredited if he's quoting Karl Marx. The guy was a homophobic, anti-Semitic person.
who
Like, you
happened
think that
to be
homosexual-
Jewish.
Well, I mean, he was German.
Well, the guy thought that essentially pedophilia.
Hey, Demon. He may have been German, but he only wrote
But he
his
lived in
Communist
England.
Manifesto when he got to Britain and saw how shit their
I
conditions
know.
were.
I will have to say I haven't found anything that's... I know there's that quote going around where he supposedly said, but I haven't found anything where he actually said that quote with Karl
What
Marx
quote?
about pedophilia and homosexuals.
But it doesn't sound like something that's too unreasonable considering the time he was born in.
True, but it might have been actually the other guy that Karl Marx worked with, maybe more likely is the one who said that, because
Oh,
that
his
guy...
enabler.
Angles.
Yes.
Could
He
be just-
is known to be homophobic, but Karl Marx really isn't anything, as I recall looking up, about him having any opinions.
It could just be the modern Democrat Party. I mean, they're all pedophilias, they're racists and homophobes, so there's that.
The thing that I just realized, and so same thing with just a lot of parties, they'll be whatever they want to be as long as they have a D in front of their name rather than an R. Because they elected Joe fucking Biden, the guy who's literally been the contradiction to most things they support now.
Mm-hmm.
He's not president yet.
They still voted for him, and his partner Kamala Harris. It isn't even any better.
Oh, she's awful.
Yeah, the
He's
woman who
just
accused
demented.
him.
She's terrible.
The woman who accused him of sexual harassment and being racist became his VP.
Yeah, exactly. But nobody wants to remember that.
You think she would get in if she was white?
Nope. She
I mean,
is
I
half
wouldn't put
white.
it past them.
She's half
I'm-
white, half Indian. She's not black. Her dad
No,
was
she-
white.
No,
He was
no.
a white Jamaican. Her mom was
Oh.
Indian. She is
Okay.
not the first black VP elect or whatever.
Hey, she's 50%. Remember Obama, right?
Oh yeah, because you know the white part doesn't count. In that case, I'm freaking Chinese.
Okay, shall we continue on with the video, or shall we keep fighting about Karl Marx, the man who's been dead for over 100 years?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Blueprints for his terrible plan before their very eyes. It was on that fateful day that the loot box was conceived.
Now, I don't really understand that bit about Karl Marx and how he told Andrew Wilson to destroy capitalism by inventing FIFA Ultimate Team and the original loot boxes, but is he trying to say that this is against capitalism? I don't know, because it's obviously not. But maybe in typical Gamer Bro fashion, he's just memeing this stuff. Now, Ackman goes on to say about how loot boxes can
This is me,
essentially
or
be
is he just
justified
saying
because of the
words at
cost
this
of video games.
The retail price for a standard video game has stayed the same for the last 30 years. Can you think of any other business that hasn't changed the cost of their product in 30 years? So as video games became more ambitious and expensive to produce, publishers, shareholders, and developers needed to find other ways to earn back their investment and turn a profit. Because companies are constantly trying to find the most effective way to monetize their games without directly raising the price.
Games that come out and we pay $60 for, these huge mega Goliath development companies probably need to average $80 to $100 off each copy to be quote-unquote profitable enough.
Yeah,
So
the
by
main
putting
issue
loot boxes in
when it
there,
comes
they'll
to the
raise
big gaming
overall average
systems,
revenue per
or the AAA
piece
company,
to
sorry,
satisfy their
is that they don't
shareholders.
know
Now, this
how
is
to
something
spend
that
money.
Quartering also spoke about, how the price of
If you check out of how these companies spend money, it's majority in physics and graphics. Two things that the majority of people can't actually play. I mean, if I have to take a good example with a free-to-play game, it's World of Tanks. Because one of the key things that they always focus on is on graphics. But for like the past 8 years, it's actually increased that over 35% of their player base can't even play the game on minimum settings. Hell, I used to be part of that where I couldn't even play World of Tanks on minimum settings, but I still played the game as a laggy piece of shit. But that's still the point. Majority of the money that the wargaming spends on World of Tanks is in graphics and physics. Same with other AAA companies. And it's the same thing as in Hollywood, where they can't make a film now for less than $120 million. No one wants to add to this?
Well, they're not very good at optimizing, aren't they?
Yeah.
They should really invest in that. There's so many games that have to get a mod to optimize it to run the thing better on my computer.
No, it's just how they spend it. They spend too much on something that most people who play the game don't really care. I know that some time ago with a discussion like this with Outlaw, that basically it's to get in the normie crowd, you know, the people who just buy the console and start playing the game and don't really care too much about the other stuff. But
Well,
even
and, like,
then,
back-
it's... Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, back on cartridges, like, they had to fit everything on there, so they would cut out pieces, like, for example, in Legend of Zelda, like, he didn't have thighs because that took up space and you weren't going to see them anyways. And
yeah, and
if
that's
they
completely
applied that
changed
to,
now.
yeah, and if they applied that to, like, the new Call of Duty, it wouldn't be 50 gigabytes or more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it could still be a reasonable size if, like you're saying, they optimized it, they cut out the fat.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the whole thing that these people spend too much time on developing something which then most people won't run. And when it comes to consoles, there's actually an interesting study of how probably these good graphics are actually ruining your consoles over time. Because, you know, you got to make the console cheap enough so you can make a profit on the console. But then most of these games are pushing the console to the limit after the first year of development when the console is out.
Oh, well, you just make the PS5 or the new Xbox, it'll just catch on fire. Problem sorts itself out.
I'm sorry, I'm still part of the PC Master Race. The only console I will ever rebuy is a PlayStation 2 to regain my childhood nostalgia.
Well, what a lot of
because... Sorry.
What a lot of companies don't realize, we're not trying to buy reality simulators. We're just trying to play a video game.
Yeah,
you know.
And even then, most games that were realistic were done way back in the past. I mean, Carl Smallwood, a man who I hate his politics, but I do find his videos entertaining, argues that the most realistic video game ever made was in 2003. And it was one of the, Metal Gear games for the PlayStation 2. And basically, the whole function of the game is very simple, but so much hidden details are in the game, which just makes it more realistic. Such as like if you give Snake certain bites of certain snakes over and over again, he builds up a tolerance to the poison.
Don't step on Snake.
or like if you kill a fish and you put it in your backpack, you have to eat it in a short while, otherwise it expires, and so on. All these small details added to the realism, and it still functions in fucking 2003. I mean, I think the only large-scale game that I have from a AAA title in the modern world is Wolfenstein: The New Order, which is still like, what was it, 60 fucking gigabytes?
Yeah.
And basically melted my previous computer.
My favorite games would be the Fallout games, Elder Scrolls, and then Far Cry.
The only reason that I would go back to a PlayStation 2 is because there's one game which was fantastic, but nobody seems to think that it should have been remastered, even though there was a massive petition some time ago for it to be remastered, and it was War of the Monsters.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's a fucking fantastic game, just no one decided to put it on anything else. It's still just on PlayStation 2.
I haven't played that in years. A lot of years.
Yeah, you know what I think might have been a very underrated PlayStation game?
What?
Twisted Metal.
I've heard about it.
It was fun.
It's essentially monster trucks, but with machine guns, and it's a devilish and dirty.
And a clown in an ice cream truck, which was
that's why I
disturbing.
remember it, because I was because when I heard Twisted Metal, the first imagery that came to my mind was a clown.
Yeah, there's a clown in an ice cream.
I don't remember his name, but my favorite character was playing this one guy who had a truck with a bunch of bodies in the back of it. That one guy. He was moving around trying to wiggle free and everything. He said, "Buddy, you're not gonna like where you wake up."
Yeah, but it's also just because the gaming industry has so heavily changed. Such as like another reason why I would get a PlayStation 2 again is because of Burnout Takedown 3. Because for fuck's sakes, that was a fun ass game. And the reason why we don't see any more games like Burnout is because so many car companies spend money for their cars to be in the game, but then refuse to allow the car to be smashable.
You know what's
Which
funny?
is fucking annoying.
You know, it's funny. Two of the newer games for me that I've played would be like Far Cry 5 and Far Cry New Dawn. I now realize why the critics hated them, because all your companions in the game are screaming at the people that you're shooting at, like, "Die, you bunch of commie SOBs, you bunch of socialist pieces of garbage." And it's like totally. And then in New Dawn, like the enemies are two black sisters, and they're like, "Oh my god, it's racist!" It's like, what? They can't be bad guys? I mean,
I thought
equal
you've already
opportunity,
heard
right?
that briefing.
I mean, it's actually a really fun game. Although playing it in impossible mode makes me want to throw my controller.
The only game which is semi-modern, which I'm looking forward to, is Zombie Army 4, which should come out on Steam next year because you can currently get it on Epic Games, but I don't want to fully support Epic Games entirely.
I mean, I want to get Cyberpunk if they ever fucking release it.
It's supposed to be released like in the next couple of days. A bunch of people already got the game.
Didn't a bunch of people get the game and they weren't supposed to get the game?
Yes, because an online store decided to give them out.
Whoops.
Same thing has happened with whatchamacallit, Harry Potter books, other previous games, and even some movies. So
I just know if the left is hating on Cyberpunk 2077, I want it.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime they hate a game, I love it.
Honestly, like when the Sonic movie came out, that's actually why I saw it, is because I heard there was like a bunch of SJWs that were angry at the movie. And then I saw like amazing ratings. So I'm just like, you know what? People were trying to censor this movie and it got really good ratings. I normally wouldn't see this movie, but let's go see it. That's basically my logic. Oh, it was actually for a video game adaptation that's like family friendly. It was surprisingly great. It was like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
like
I actually watched it a couple times.
I haven't seen the Sonic movie yet, and I initially wanted to see it, but for a different reason, because I wanted to see the terrible Sonic.
No,
well, they fixed that.
Yeah, so It's on Amazon Prime now for free if you want to watch it for free. But the thing is
Is
like,
it on
I
Prime?
already got it.
Yeah. But honestly, was it the Sonic movie was actually, in my opinion, it was just surprisingly fucking great. It was like everything that you could hope, whether you're a kid or an adult who played the video games, or a little kid who, seeing the video of the movie with a family. It was actually like there's a lot of family-friendly movies that kind of are a little bit cheesy, a little bit corny, not really enjoyable for everybody. Like, but there, Sonic was actually surprisingly just overall great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it because I grew up on Sonic.
So short,
the restaurant.
Short gist of it. What I'm saying is like whenever there does tend to be a bit of censorship from people who are trying to play the moral authorities on these subjects, pragmatically speaking, SJWs. Whenever we have people that are trying to censor out media, either on the basis of diversity, inclusion, or feminism, or women's rights, whatever. Especially if it's unreasonable or unjustified, like it just promotes the movie to an extreme, and that's what it did for me.
Yep. Outlaw, are you dead set on finishing listening to this idiot, or?
I think we can move on to maybe the last video.
Okay.
Oh man, this is record time. We're actually semi-moving through these videos.
I was gonna say it's been an hour and a half, and like we're through 3. Normally,
but we also shouldn't
one.
really count that because the last time we've been doing this, we were also actually watching the entire video, and we're just watching it, some of it, and just see if he's constantly repeating the same argument, and then it's like, okay, on to the next one.
Yeah, because I don't think we want to continue. We don't want to continue repeating the same thing, which they just already rehashed over and over again. So
I think we're fucking insane.
We have a few different videos we could do here. We could do the should the U.S. invade itself?
That's an interesting one.
That could only go so well.
How the Electoral College breaks.
Oh, not that. Those are. I'm going to be doing videos on these.
Oh, okay.
There's also the civil rights hidden history of the Democratic Party.
For some weird reason, I'm gonna guess that the history of the KKK suddenly has a Republican origin.
What?
Some kind of shit they're gonna try to blame on the Republicans.
So,
anyways, which would you like to watch?
I don't want to watch any of them.
For entertainment, thanks. Let's go for the Civil War one, or invade.
Civil rights.
Civil rights, not the Civil War.
By the way,
I'm good with Civil War.
Yeah, history.
So there's two
the
things.
U.S. invade itself.
But the whole U.S. invading itself, is it just mere? I don't know why, but for some reason, the question-begging fallacy just popped into my mind. I don't even know if it's justified to say that, but it's like, did anyone else have that pop into their mind when they heard of the United States invading itself? Like,
what?
It almost comes across as like circular logic. Why would you? I don't know. Like, that's a better way to say it. It sounds like circular logic. Why would the United States invade itself? Like, what?
It's to go F yourself inside yourself with yourself.
Well, according to leftists, you can't have a military coup because the military is more Republican than left-wing. Except for like a couple of generals.
Anyways, let's go on with the video.
Yeah, sorry about that, Rational.
The Democratic Party turned their back on the racists after Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act on July 2nd, 1964. And the Republican Party
Lyndon Johnson, the huge racist.
Those people.
Right.
Check it
yeah,
out.
I was going to mention that because recently I went to Lyndon Johnson's Wikipedia page. Something had to do with the Vietnam War. I don't fully remember it. Long story short, according to Wikipedia, he is the civil rights president. Not in the sense that he signed the civil rights bill, as in he supported it.
He didn't have a choice.
Yeah, he didn't have a choice, but it's also, are you sure you want to go down the route that he supported it? Because it's
the guy that said we'll have all these N-words vote for us for the next 100 years. Yeah,
200 years.
Yeah, because he loved African Americans.
Yeah, well, the thing is, and I think we covered this on a previous video, it was JFK and Nixon were generally gunning for civil rights votes. Effectively, they wanted to be the first to do it. And Lyndon B. Johnson just went ahead and going to do what JFK did anyway, because anyone would effectively want to do it anyway, because that would be in a very important voting block. And he was just the person in power and place at the time, and he went along, just went and did it. Like, the Deep South was going to be abandoned anyway for a more prominent voting base, regardless who the hell was in there. They just wanted to do it first.
All I got to say to this idiot, who started the Civil War? Democrats. Who started slavery? Democrats. Who put in Jim Crow laws? Democrats. Who started the KKK? Democrats. Just saying. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Well,
Outlaw.
With your friends and subscribe to our channel. Calls here, Leslie in Central Square, New York. Hey, Leslie, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. This is very important. Just give me a minute or so, will you please?
That's a Leslie?
I mean, like, let's be real here. There's sometimes people have names where you wouldn't expect them to have names. Like, sometimes there's dudes who are named like names that you traditionally.
But I was pretty sure that Leslie was a girl's name.
I mean, yeah, I know, but I mean, like, I've met people that had names that were traditionally girls' names that were dudes. You know, it's just like it is what it is.
Okay.
Well, my stepfather, his name was Tracy.
70 million Republicans voted.
Dick
and
Tracy?
The Hillary, it was what, 30 million? And that's terrible. It's just going to keep progressing. And the fact it comes from, on like Fox News, not because they lie or anything, I watched 4 shows in a row screaming and hollering and screaming and hollering. It comes from the brainwashing. They go to that show for that hype. They don't even care if it's true or not. They don't care about none of that. They want that feeling. And they stick to whatever the line is. Vote for Trump or whatever, no matter what truth comes out anywhere else or lies. They don't care.
By this logic,
about
you can
that.
apply the same statement to Russia.
Drives them.
Except the Russian one is true.
And if that doesn't stop, we'll never win an election again. We have to go after that and stop it. Fairness doctrine or what?
Yeah, I don't think the fairness doctrine is going to save us, but I do get what you're saying, and I think that we do need to be, the Democrats and progressives need to be messaging better. The fact of the matter is that the Republicans have basically rigged the system. They've rigged the media. They've got this huge right-wing echo chamber. They've rigged a whole bunch of states. So that even though the majority of people in Michigan, in North Carolina, in Wisconsin, and several other states,
I mean, does he believe that the Holocaust happened in
Congress, for the
BBS
Senate, for the House? Well, not so much the Senate, but for Congress and the House, and the governorship, you end up with Democratic governors because it's a statewide office, Democratic secretaries of state. Excuse me, but the representation in the House of Representatives and in their own legislatures is entirely Republican, even though they're minority Republican states. And those structural things are getting worse. They're going to get worse this year with redistricting, sadly, because the Democratic Party did not put a priority, actually didn't have the resources to put a priority on capturing some of these state houses. It's terrible. Leslie, thank you for the call. Ronnie in New Berlin, Wisconsin.
Okay, all right, stop. Yeah. Everything this man has said is a fucking lie.
That was gone.
It's all provably false.
We agree on that.
I'll be I hate to be like I hate to be that guy who's like too groggy.
Watch out, you are the one who's gonna be shot if you say something really stupid now.
No, I'm just saying, like, when the guy called in, I barely understood what the fuck he was saying, and this guy, I'm not too sure I knew what he was talking about. So I'm from Canada, I feel a little bit out of loop here. Somebody want to like fill me in, maybe?
Okay, in that sense. You will not be shot today. Who wants to explain it to him?
I'm getting paid by the government to dig a hole for him.
Like, so is he claiming that the Democrats run the media, or what the fuck is he saying?
No, he's claiming that the Republicans have basically, what was it, that they had rigged everything?
They're saying that they have control of the media and they've rigged everything up to where that they win.
Basically, his point was Republicans control the media, which is laughable, and that the Republicans only won all the state houses and legislatures because Democrats couldn't fundraise.
Yeah, and I was about to bring that up because did anyone hear what happened to Maxine Waters recently?
No.
Hopefully she either died or is in prison.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, neither. No, what happened was that some amount of money mysteriously disappeared from her campaign fund and reappeared in her daughter's bank account.
Oh, kind of like Ilhan Omar?
Yes, and also 2 days ago or yesterday, I forgot which, the similar thing was discovered with none other than Ilhan Omar, where $183,000 from her campaign fund mysteriously appeared in her husband's bank account.
Yeah.
After, and people dug in a little bit deeper and found out that he has received over $500,000.
Actually, it's millions.
No, $500,000 in COVID bailouts.
Wait, why did he get that? For running a political advice, whatever.
Yeah, for his business.
Did you? So I'm going to be charitable and say I didn't do my fair research, but I'm going to be very, very cynical and say this is one of those situations where I'm not sure if I need to do too much. Did any of you guys see the video that and I'm not a huge fan of the quartering, but did any of you see the video he made regarding the corruption within the women's Me Too charity with Amy Schumer, Oprah Winfrey? Like they raised $300 million, but like what was it, 2 million or 1 million went to like CEO and employee bonuses.
Yeah, well, I mean, what about the Clinton Foundation? Where'd all that money go? Billions raised for Haiti.
I got a better one over any of y'all. Have any of y'all donated more than $1 to cancer charity?
Oh God.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so I have. Putza says yes. Demon.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, Neko.
What's the question? Sorry, I had to leave for a sec.
The question was, have you donated more than $1 to a cancer fund, whether directly or indirectly?
I don't think I have.
Okay, you will be hanged for your crimes against humanity. History, have you done it?
Not sure.
Can be also a Canadian dollar. It's when I say indirectly, like there was a charity fund, cookies or something like that. You buy it and money goes to the charity.
Probably yes, then. Yeah, I mean, like, I do that once in a while sometimes, or in the past I did.
Okay, my basic point is, you have all donated more money than Joe Biden has for his cancer charity that literally raised over $3 million, and none of that went to charity. All of that went to executives and his own bank account.
Yep, I knew that.
Okay.
The other thing, the other one that really, really bothers me is the veterans funds, which you should always research because some of them, they don't give crap to veterans. They keep it.
Yeah,
that makes me angry.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I'm always kind of charitable, ironically, when I go and look for charity funds. Because a lot of them is just so corrupt, and most people just don't give it without second thought. They'll give $1.
One good tool is a website called Charity Navigator. They'll tell you like how transparent they are and how much they put towards administrative costs.
Mm-hmm.
It really sucks too for like legitimate charities because then they have to deal with the stigma. And realistically, like if you're giving over 60%, and don't get me wrong, 40% is a ridiculously high cost. That's decent. And, if you're giving like 70, 80, 90%, that's pretty fucking good. And, these charities have to now put up with the stigma from, this type of jazz.
Well, I'm not a huge...
I mean, so long as it's like legitimate overhead costs and not just like CEO bonuses.
Well, I was going to say, I'm not a huge Glenn Beck fan, but Mercury One, his charity foundation, they give like basically everything to charity and they have the receipts to prove it. And then they do fundraisers at the end of the year to pay the executives and stuff. But all the money, if you donate, it goes to a charity. So I can respect him for that.
Taking my call with Thanksgiving here. I am so thankful for Stephanie, you, and my local Devils Radio in Madison, Wisconsin. You guys have me so much more informed than I ever was. But I need your help trying to figure out the history of how the Democratic and Republican parties basically swapped sides and how they're how the electors, how the people went along with this. Because it was, and basically I'm looking for books or something that you could recommend. I mean, like, the Republicans freed the slaves, but the Democrats fight for people of color today. And
that's what happened in 1964.
Like, this is just number one, policy change in Democrats, and number two, just demographic change. There was nothing organized about it. It just happened on its own.
Well, yeah. For example, they often try to cite the states switching their political views when that's kind of not entirely correct. For one of the main reasons, as you were saying, is demographic changes. Is the fact that the people were moving once air conditioning was invented, and so they moved to different states. So more Republican people moved to places like Texas. And then it's just a movement of people.
Yeah. I've actually done a little bit of research. The main thing you need to know about the change, the switch, that it was mostly economics. For instance, most socialist policies and most democratic policies today came from the South. And when World War II happened, FDR, he kind of popularized the idea of welfare systems and, social security. And that when the economic change was happening and was the boost of the essentially air conditionings, much of the South found the Republican economic model to be more of a benefit to go along with their new growing economy. And most people that were living in the North favored the Democratic economic model to be much more favorable towards their system. And so even with today, no matter what you say about it, if you look at the economic structure of the South back then, it has the same exact economic model that the Democrats are using now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that in a nutshell. Like even if you think it was racially motivated or whatever the fuck the reason, you can't deny the economic reasons for it.
Well, to be fair, the stereotype of black people not liking cold weather has some merit.
But anyways, as far as black people voting for the Democratic Party, the reason for that shift is, as you were already saying, Putza, is the welfare state. That was the biggest reason as to why. They didn't start moving towards voting Democrat until the 1930s with the implementation of Social Security and the welfare state and everything. That's when black population started to vote more heavily Democrat. And of course, as I said, there's that, and again, the fact of the invention of the air conditioning, which allowed people to move much more to warmer climates.
First it was the air conditioner, then it was the fried chicken.
Anyways, those are the reasons as to why there was the change within how states vote. Now, there's also the fact that within the people who just stayed, the opinions of those people changed. As you were saying, Putza, with economic reasons and for other reasons.
Well, just generally, you will find that a lot of people, certainly in an industrialized area, kind of favored welfare models more favorably than something of a more individualist-driven Republican economic model. And this just became a trend more over time, especially after World War II. People started moving in those directions.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that, there's also the fact that both parties were really pretty much the same before the 1930s. There was very little difference between the two party platforms. Not until, as I was saying, the 1930s where the party platforms started to change.
I'm sorry, but was Teddy Roosevelt a Democrat?
Teddy was a Republican.
I know. That's my point.
FDR was a Democrat.
I know.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't really listening. I was looking at a meme that said, "Which sold out faster in 2020, toilet paper or Fox News?"
What did Fox? I mean, like Fox News has never. I mean, like let's be real. Like, big name media has never really been big on standing on principle. So
yeah, no, they all suck.
Yeah. But like, what did they do recently?
Well, effectively, so and a lot of this also goes with Tucker Carl. He went on a tirade to just go show me a bunch of evidence that of election fraud and everything. And most of them are just said, go ahead and just accept the election results. As a matter of fact, Fox News was one of the first people to call, I think it was Arizona for Biden. And in a legality sense, you never just go and release the news on a major news platform. That's for the courts.
You mean release evidence on a news platform?
Yeah, just like that.
Before you go to court.
Yeah. And Tucker, he's smart enough to know this. And he did it in likelihood because his corporate cronies told him to say it. And so there's just a lot of people just dropping Fox News like a hammer.
I don't understand. So his corporate cronies told him to say that Arizona was going to win it, or what?
No. That just to release a bunch of. He was telling, I believe it was Rudy Giuliani.
It was Sidney Powell.
Effectively just to go and release all this evidence about election fraud, which you don't do on a major network effectively on a major news source. And he was calling and saying the whole movement in Trump was being illegitimate in his claims because he didn't go and produce the evidence right there on the newscast site or on the news interview. And there's just a whole spiral of a bunch of things, essentially Fox News saying that there was nothing illegitimate about the election and effectively just having the same exact talking points as CNN and everybody else. Yeah.
The other thing is people like Jedediah Bila, who she's I used to really like her, but she's like saying there were no suitcases pulled out in Georgia. It was ballot boxes. Okay, so they sent everybody home, and instead of pulling out suitcases, they were black ballot boxes. What's the freaking difference? I don't care if it was a suitcase, a box, or a kid's swimming pool. They're still pulled out boxes of votes.
So I do have a question when it comes to like the voter fraud, if you guys are more educated on it.
Yes.
Okay, so is the voter fraud that's recently happening, is it drastically worse in comparison to recent decades or years?
Yes.
This is a simple question.
Jesus
Okay.
Christ, put so.
Oh, well, even if there wasn't any...
I haven't been paying attention. So, I mean, like, out of 300 million people, if 7,000 people on average commit voter fraud, then it's just the average. Mm-hmm. So, like, is this at a higher rate than normal? So
it's potentially hundreds of thousands.
In voter fraud, you are correct. Voter fraud has been going on for over 100 years. It's not new. It's just this time it's so glaringly obvious that it's basically slapping us in the face with a big black. You know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, don't say it. No, I got a good comparison that I told you.
But I wanted you even to say it.
Oh, shut up. Anyways, no, but I gave a good comparison to Outlaw some time ago, the whole situation. Basically, in previous cases, the voter fraud was more the individual's fault. You know, a lot of people receive multiple mail-in ballots, of dead people on occasions. And, someone who's a little bit corrupt or a little bit shady, the individual person, can just fill out each ballot with just enough justifying information and then send it, and it's counted. Such as, for example, Outlaw's mom received two ballots, one with her normal name and the other one with her married name. She filled out, of course, the one with her married name, but it's just a basic fact that she received two ballots to vote for.
Steven Crowder got two ballots.
Yeah, so if she filled out both and gave them in and they were counted, then she committed voter fraud, and this is the individual case. But what we're seeing with this election is on a state level, where the people who are in charge of ensuring that voter fraud doesn't happen are actively doing it. And it seems like they're actively doing it underneath orders from someone else.
Well, and here's the other thing. There's videos. They said they weren't going to verify signatures. There is no ID requirement. People are getting, like, people were telling stories, even Democrats who came out and said, I got a ballot for my cat that died 12 years ago.
Yeah,
and
that one I
Roy,
saw.
the Fox News person you're talking about was Neil Cavuto.
There was also that other scenario, the more depressing one, where a guy found out that his best friend voted and his best friend died of an accident last year.
Yeah, a lot of dead people voted.
No, but he was more shocked because he got the notice that his friend voted. And it's a little bit worse when you find out that your best friend / roommate is dead, but somehow you got a confirmation that he voted. So that one is the more saddening case, and he wasn't just the only one. That was like the first big one that I saw. Then there was a bunch of others where they found out that, like, I think the other one was where someone whose father or mother, I forgot which one, just died like last week before the election, and he got the notice that they voted.
Well, thankfully in Florida, we have the system down pretty good because, like, my dad, he died in January, but we didn't get a ballot for him. Actually, nobody I know down here got double ballots. But other places, yeah, I know people that did.
Yeah, because other places are a wee bit shady, such as, like, the biggest county in Arizona also happens to be the only county to use Dominion systems.
We have Georgia, Michigan,
Wisconsin.
So basically, like, keep in mind, I'm from Canada, and I'm kind of out of the loop. I'm not really paying attention. That's why I'm asking these questions.
Okay.
Oh, you guys have it worse in Canada. You got to put up with that Trudeau fella.
Yeah, but we don't. At least, like, I don't know. At least we don't hear stories about voter fraud. So I mean, like.
Yeah, but just because you don't hear stories, that doesn't mean it isn't happening.
Well,
such as like in Germany,
I know.
The current state in Germany, they keep saying that voter fraud never happens. And just to give you an idea, just to give a serious idea about Germany, a few years ago, we got rid of our version of ballot watchers, and now all ballot counting, because to be fair, we do have a more secure system than the US, because all ballots are done on paper and are counted by a machine. So the machine is nothing more than a counter. That's literally all it is. The issue is now those counting machines are all done in private. So now there's no one watching and no one that can actually ensure what is counted.
Well, the thing about why Canadian elections actually go pretty smoothly, I was listening to a Canadian politician, and it's that every single one of their ballots is done by hand, in person, and counted that way. Not like us, where you've got all these weird mailing things that come in and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm sure this is this person, or they drop off a couple of 100,000 of them that have never been folded, so they were never in an envelope when they are perfectly covered in bubbles, and they just run them through the machine sometimes 3 times in a row. I mean, all that crap is fact.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Recently, because there was the Michigan hearings, multiple people claimed that they saw, and I believe them, because just like when it comes to a rape claim, I'm more inclined to believe the person who's making the claim when they're willing to put their face to their claim.
And they swear under oath.
Yeah.
I mean, that's better than any of the Russia claims where, I don't know, I mean, like John Brennan, he lied under oath, so did McCabe and Comey. Like, they blatantly lied. They never got in trouble.
To quote a good political song, where a parody of McCain sings, he says, "I swing both ways in DC." So basically, what I'm trying to say is, doesn't matter. John McCain will lie about anything to get either vote. But anyways,
I just want to say to Democrats, when I think about you, go F yourself.
So, particularly with Mr. Trudeau, I mean, like, to be fair, he's pretty terrible. I'm not trying to defend him, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, he's just he's a career politician. He's a dirtbag. His daddy was prime minister. He's a rich little entitled white boy, and so he gets to be prime minister.
Well, you also got to remember he started to cut veterans funds. So there are a lot of veterans now who should be paid, but they're not being paid by the Canadian government. And at the same time, he gave over 2 million Canadian dollars to a terrorist.
And not only that, but the terrorists actually went up in Alberta and I believe bought some property. Unless the rebel media was lying, they actually show documents. So he actually bought a small strip mall next to a small elementary school. So there's a garden center, there's a daycare, there's a travel agency, all the things we need to get. All the things.
Do I need to bring up the statistics about the Islamic people? Because I know he is not a Canadian resident. But anyways,
Allahu Akbar. So I mean, yeah, it's just. What was it? Mr. Trudeau's administration, I actually stopped keeping up with them after the 2-year mark. It was too stressful. I actually tracked a lot of the shit that he did. Man, yeah, the guy's pretty bad. You know, he's essentially just extremely corrupt. All he cares about is pleasing his.
He's so corrupt. He turned black on several occasions.
Exactly. Are you saying black people are corrupt?
No, I'm talking about when he covered himself in blackface.
I mean, honestly, I guess at least he's our first primate. He's our first leader of color, you know. So that's the bright side.
Okay, that's a great one.
So
blackface does not make you black.
Oh no,
being corrupt does. According to a white Democrat up in
Easy Z.
Oh god.
No. If you didn't hear, there's this Democrat in Detroit who's saying that the only reason why Republicans want to check the elections in Detroit is because they think black people are corrupt by default. And of course, it's a white Democrat who's saying this thing.
Yeah. If you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black.
If you're not subscribed to Rational Outlaw, you ain't black. There we go.
I will say one positive thing about Trudeau. He can take falling down some stairs like a champ.
He can always take falling down like a champ. Like you could push him. He could do fucking any scandal and just go up there and professionally act as he's been trained to.
Also, he's got a nice ass.
Shut up, Outlaw.
Okay,
it's really amazing. Like I was gonna say, it's really amazing. Like how many times he's like stabbed liberals and yet they still want to vote for him. I don't get it.
Point.
I mean,
he can lie like a champ, just like Kamala can go down like a champ.
I mean, honestly, I respect the SOC Dems, the NDP, way more than I'll ever respect. Like right now, most people that voted last year for the NDP, I have a lot more respect for them than people that voted for Mr. Trudeau. That's for sure. It's just, like the amount of corruption the amount of corruption in his first 4 years was absolutely insane, and it was a tragedy that he won. But you know what? It's just, and the thing
I'm supposed to read the quote, but I'm just waiting for him to finish.
If Trudeau wins another 4 years, West Canada exit or Wexit is going to become much more popular. I'll tell you that much. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that as someone who wants it to happen. Like the Albertans are getting militant. The Albertans want to separate at this point.
Who are the Albertans?
Alberta. So like Alberta, basically. So think of Alberta as like. Think of it as like the like moderately very conservative. Think of it as like conservative Texas of Canada. So it's like
I'm just gonna read the code quickly so we can get it off screen. Those who vote decide nothing. Those who count the votes decide everything. Joseph Stalin supposedly. Well, the actual quote goes as, what was it? It doesn't matter who votes. It only matters who counts the vote. Because guess who counted the party vote for the next leader of the Communist Party?
The Communist Party.
No, Joseph Stalin. He was the vote counter.
Oh, yeah.
Guess who was the following leader?
He probably shot the rest of them.
He did that by the end. No, but seriously, when the Soviet Union was formed, Stalin was given the position of just a desk job, where all his job was to send out letters and so on to other party members. And well, Stalin wasn't very kind at his job. Let's just say he was a little bit of a snoop, so he read any letter that he could. You could imagine what happens when he got a letter from a now paralyzed Lenin saying that Stalin is a brute and must be removed from the party. I'm not saying that he killed Lenin. I just said he did everything in his power to ensure that he was the next leader, and Lenin wasn't much wiser. Also, why are all these noises coming from you?
Who?
Don't worry, I fixed it.
Anyways, I think we'll end it here. I don't know what happened to Neko Boy. He didn't leave a message, if anything. But anyways, I think we will end the stream here. So if anyone has any final comments to say.
I just hope that Trump wins, because it is getting kind of close to the end of date.
Anyways, if you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe. And also, don't forget to consider... Oh, apparently his internet went out. That's why. Neko's internet. He just messaged me.
Neko will be missed.
Anyways, so if you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe. You can also go ahead and commission Z Commander. He's doing his own model making that you can commission him for that. And of course, you can also support Neko Boy. He has his YouTube channel, so you can go check that out. He does more geek culture stuff. So, do all that, and we'll see y'all later.